Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We got up to episode 608, and we've got a special guest, Blue Whale. So you got DanK here, or sometimes known as DanK, DanK, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming back. So I want to talk about the Hemp Fest real quick. We're still working on the park denial appeal. We're trying to get back into the city park. The Parks Department, well, I won't get into a lot of details right now, but it's appeal pending. But anyway, we're trying to, we got to the next level of appeal, which is going to be in circuit court. So our attorney needs some funds, so we've opened a GoFundMe account, and we're looking for some help with the attorney fees. We've already paid the $465 for the transcription of the first appeal. So now we need that for the legal work required, so we've got that behind us. So now we need $252 for the court itself, and then $2,000 for the attorney. So anyway, it's on the GoFundMe account, and we can definitely some help and spread the word far and wide, and we'll go from there. So Blue Whale, I think you were going to talk about the legislature and what they're doing to us or for us? Is it to us or for us?
To us in many ways.
Yes.
On June 30th, 2015, the Oregon legislature passed HB 3400. This bill changed Measure 91 and the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. HB 3400 directed the Oregon Health Authority to create rules for these changes. Most of these changes took effect April 1st, 2016. Proposed changes include requirements about patients and caregivers, residency, growers being 21 years of age or older, tracking and data reporting for growers, processors, and dispensaries, possession limit changes, and plant limits at grow sites. If you're a card holder, you should review the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act changes. You can review this at the following website: www.healthoregon.org/OMMP. And before I forget, it's interesting to note that what I'm going to tell you is so important. It affects us all in the cannabis community. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear a review of the Colorado pot laws by the state of Nebraska, and another state brought suit against their pot laws. And the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear it and said, just basically go away and we'll leave it up to the states. This was a real victory for us, because if the Supreme Court would have ruled in favor of Nebraska and another state, this could have very well shot down all the work we've done in the states. And there's 39 states now that have some form of legalization, which is great. That's wonderful, and we're on the move constantly, but we're under attack. We're under attack because the people in the legislature in Salem, Oregon doesn't like the cannabis community or the cannabis product. So they don't know really what to do, because they've never experienced this. This is something new to them. So Oregon is looking to Colorado for answers. And one of the things I heard today was that Colorado had already done this, limit to THC in the medibles. And Oregon's about to do this, where you'll get medibles with 2% THC or something in it, some ridiculous amount which you would never buy. So we are under attack in a big way. So I would I always encourage you to call your legislators and tell them not to mess with Measure 91. The voters of Oregon voted it in, you know, by a wide margin. So it's really funny because they don't treat alcohol the same way. You can run over and kill people and you walk away. And this has happened in Oregon. But if you have cannabis in the car, you're going to jail. Chances are you're going to jail for probably a long time. So this is this double standard that we talk about. And this is something that these kind of things will need to, I feel, need to be addressed in court. That's the only way you're going to settle these things, because it's not right. How can you discriminate against a certain culture, one culture, and you don't discriminate against the alcohol culture, and they're dying about thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are dying from alcohol.
Yeah, that's right. And like driving fatalities, they claim that if pot smokers are raised, the chances of driver fatality. Actually, in reality, it's not true, but that's what they keep saying. They keep talking about that. You know.
Yeah, the National Highway Safety Council has said that there's absolutely no proof, excuse me, that smoking cannabis and driving impairs your driving. Yep. There's no proof of it, and there's no way you can test for it, because cannabis stays in your system for 52 days. So you could have smoked 2 weeks ago, and it's still going to be in your system if they test you. That's why there's no roadside test in Oregon, because there is no test other than taking you to the police station and taking a blood test. Exactly,
and there's no, if I remember correctly, I don't think Oregon actually has a nanogram limit.
No, they don't.
Set either.
No, they don't.
And I think Colorado has 5 nanograms, and there's no proof that a person is impaired at 5.
No, and Washington has it also.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's a mess.
On these residency requirements, Oregon is allowing people to come in and grow. And Oregon doesn't care how long you've been here, as long as you get an ID card or a driver's license or something, I'm sure. But for patients, you have to be Oregon resident. You know, so.
Yeah, and that residency thing, what little I understand about it, it's a double-edged sword kind of thing, because I talked to a dispensary owner that said that not having that the residency thing was causing him problems, I'm trying to say, and he's hoping that they would eliminate the residency part and that it would help him. So I don't know which way it was good or bad on that.
I just hope that the corporations don't come in and take things over, because I just watched a show the other night about that very subject. And in Ohio, they voted on legalization, and it was voted down because 5 corporations were going to run the whole cannabis program. And the people said no. So they turned it down. And that was a problem that California had in their last initiative. Even the activists in California voted against their initiative because they saw the corporations coming in. And I watched this show the other night that showed huge warehouses for these corporations. And this one older man runs it, and the reporter asked him, "Have you ever tried cannabis?" And he goes, "No, I haven't, I never will." But he's growing warehouses with thousands of plants in it.
Wow, yeah.
You know, some bald-headed geek that doesn't even know what it's like. He's just going to make a lot of money off of it. You know, doesn't care about anything else.
These cannabis business organizations have these big conventions. They charge $300 for a 2-day weekend or for a 2-day event. Or the one coming up in April is $195 for 1 day. It's coming in the Hilton at the end of April.
Well, that's
and Tommy Chong's going to be there
actually,
too. But
with the VIP pass, it's $250
yeah,
to hang out before and after party with Tommy Chong.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when it comes down to the bottom line, it comes down to money.
Yep, I know, and that's why we call it that. It's pay to play. It used to be they'd have events, and the known activists such as myself and yourself and others would get in for nothing, and because we're working, we're helping run the event, you know. But these big money outfits come in, they hire everything done, and they don't care about us or want us around. I talked to the guy that actually runs the. I've known him for years, and I saw him up in Portland, and he said, "Would you like a discounted ticket, Dan?" I said, "Well, no, actually, I need a pro bono ticket because I'm on Social Security and I don't have an income that's cannabis related, but I do like to be able to talk to people that's in the industry and just the whole cannabis issue." And he said, "Well," he said, "it costs money to put on events." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I do an event myself. I've done one every year since 2003. "Well," he says, "little events."
Well, I do know for a fact that Tommy Chong charges $25,000.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And he wouldn't come to Portland Hempstock one year because they only had 20,000.
I'd forgotten about that.
And he says, "I'm not coming."
That's right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
So this is what we're facing, a real corporate influx right now.
And then we had that, remember that, I don't know if you heard about this, but the TV reporter, I think it was from KEZI, that got fired because she failed, got an accident and they drug tested her and she failed. Remember that?
Yes.
I tried to get a hold of her through Facebook, going back and get a hold of her, and I never heard back, but I wanted her to come on our show, you know, and but never heard from her. And yet the big outfits up in Portland, the medical conferences, they got a hold of her. They got her up there as a featured speaker.
After they paid her.
Of course. Yeah. So anyway, it's you know, the money talks, as they say, you know. So anyway, do you think the medical they're trying to eliminate the medical programs? What I'm trying to say.
Yes, that's their ultimate goal. They don't like the fact that they can't tax medical. They don't like that. You know, they want to tax everything they can. And this is to me is the big thing behind it.
Right, you bet.
You know, it's not hard to see through it.
Right. Well, we're going to continue the discussion on the second half. We've got the first half is coming to an end, so we want to remind you to come on back and keep discussing what we're doing and where we're going, and hopefully we can make some good changes. There's some good people in Springfield that are working on some changes. Actually, tonight as we're speaking, we'll talk about that when we come back. So stick around. We'll be here. I hope you will be too.
President Obama stopped the drug wars, the drama, arrested me for a G of Jane, comma Mary. Take that money for the jail cells, keep it from the cartels. Don't help a drug dealer millionaire, tax weed and give a brother health care. It's cannabis, miracle medicine that gives me bliss. Used to making rope and giving somebody hope, that sounds familiar. Be the candidate we thought you were. Norm to the L.org, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Norm to the L.org. Go to the website and help out the cause.
Welcome back to the second half of episode 608. You got Blue Whale, the special guest, and of course here myself is DanK. And I wanted to talk about the Global Marijuana March coming up May 7th. That's on a Saturday, May 7th. It's the first day of May. And we need to have, the last few years has been a pretty light turnout. We need to have more people there. Let's show our support, you know, and it's a lot of fun. You got people driving down 7th Street, a lot of supporters, honk their horns and wave at us, and it's a lot of fun. And we're going to have some music this year, and so we'll be more about that later, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Put it on your calendar. That's May 7th. So we were talking about the changes to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program and the implementation of the legalization initiative, even though as skewed as it is, thanks to our legislature. the initiative was clear in the fact it wasn't supposed to affect medical in any way, and it's affecting medical in a whole bunch of ways. But
Yes.
again, that's the politicians. That's what we're faced with. You're talking about, for instance, my own local state senator is Lee Byers. I've had experience with him before. He's not, anyway, I won't say, yeah, it's not good. Let's put it that way. He did absolutely nothing that I could see or saw for the marijuana initiative, even though he was on the implementation committee. And I sat through one hearing that he was there, and he never asked a question in the whole hearing. He never asked one. He just sat there like a bump in a log, you know. And he's never been pro legalization, and not necessarily. I can't say he's anti, but he's definitely never been pro. So, and he's got 3.5 or 4 years left on his term too, unfortunately. So anyway, it's really important about voting and getting the decent people in and getting the rotten ones out. And so, believe me, when his term comes up, if I'm still alive, I'm going to be working on whoever is running against him. That's for sure.
Yeah, I could just add to that, man. We need to get some people in Salem that's on our side.
Yep.
With a few exceptions, we have Earl Blumenauer.
Yeah.
Submitted a letter to President Obama to legalize. Earl Blumenauer. And Floyd Przansky used to be on our side, but I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine what happened to him.
Yeah, I got a couple of Przansky stories. I definitely have to hold my nose. He was supposed to be our friend, but I got a few things that are a little...
He totally switched sides.
Yeah.
And I have my opinion, but I won't go into that. But we need people.
Well, it's like the the Measure 91 implementation committee that I was just speaking of. Some of the people on that, Andy Olson out of Andy Olson, retired Oregon State police officer, is on the implementation committee. Now, what's wrong with that picture? You know,
this guy.
What gets even worse is the guy that's the head of the LCC, which is now, of course, the head of the recreational program, is the DA from Klamath Falls, who was against the initiative from the get-go. Now, what's wrong with that picture?
Yeah, the one guy they had on this implementation committee was Tom Burns, and he was on our side. And he put something on a computer. They used a technicality, something he put on a computer to fire him. And he was the only one that appealed to us. The rest are, like you said, are ex-cops, ex-DEA. God knows who they are, and they're against us. So this is why all this is happening. So we need to get people in Salem, one way or another.
Yeah, definitely.
And even the governor, Kate Brown, which I would talk to her when I lived in Portland, and she was state attorney general, and she would come have town meetings, and we would talk about these things, and under pressure from the people in Salem, she signed these bills that I'm talking about under pressure, and then they went away. So this was a total change for her because she's very liberal. You know, so it had to be under pressure, you know. So I'm a little surprised. I want to go talk to the governor when you can do that and maybe talk some sense into her head, you know.
It definitely takes communication and a lot of it from a lot of people, and it's hard to do, but it needs to be done. Go to meetings when you can, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, this year was nothing. Wait till next year when they're in full session. It's going to be a circus for the whole session. They're going to be trying to, just as they have been, trying to cripple, weaken, or whatever you want to call it, the Oregon medical marijuana program since it was implemented in 1998. When I was gathering signatures in '97 for the medical initiative, I thought to myself, now I can't imagine the state of Oregon running a marijuana program. I wouldn't think they really would want to do that, but they don't have any choice. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Well, now we look back on it, and now we're seeing, and I was right. They don't like it, they don't like it. They don't want anything to do with it, but they have to, and it shows. They have done very little, if nothing, for patients. They've done a whole lot to patients.
Yeah.
For instance, raising fees, creating fees. Even though they're already making money on the program, they're making money off of sick people. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, they made 3 times what they expected to make in the first year.
Yeah.
They love the money. Oh, the money is attractive to them. They just don't like the patients or the product.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because if you compare this to alcohol, alcohol is destroying thousands of people every year across here and across the country. Cannabis destroys nobody unless you use other things with it. Cannabis by itself doesn't hurt people. So for them to be so restrictive is obviously, in Salem, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what, and they're looking at Colorado and saying, oh, we should do it like this. So they're going to, as I said before, lower the THC in medibles and other such silly things. And this is real unfortunate.
Yeah, and the Oregon legislature kept talking about how there was so much black market in the medical marijuana program, so they needed to clamp down and tighten up and cure all that black market nonsense.
I heard that.
And I just saw a news program 2 days ago, a local news program that was talking about how the black market is flourishing. And it's the same thing I heard in Colorado. In Colorado, they've got so many taxes. It's taxed at 3 different levels. It's so expensive in the store that it costs more in the store than it does on the street.
Yes.
And yet, they're both flourishing.
Yeah, I heard that on the radio today, as a matter of fact. And they said the radio program went, I thought legalization was supposed to eliminate the black market. Well, they just busted 200 pounds in a house in Vancouver. It shows that it's not being effective, and the people against us will use every excuse to bring up stuff like this to turn against us. I know lots of people that don't buy medical cards. They refuse to. They say it's legal. They don't need the medical card. They've been using it forever. Well, you know, it would help to support us if they did and not be so anti-cannabis in that way.
Yeah, in some ways, the cannabis program needs to be intact because we need to keep doing the research and the patient angle of it, and they shouldn't be thrown out into the recreational market. So it's going to be a continuing battle. I can see it.
Yes, in fact, eventually there's going to be separate dispensaries for recreational and separate dispensaries for medical. If the medical stays intact, if they don't rip that apart between now and next year, 2017.
The medical conference I tell you about coming up in April?
Yes.
That's being run by a guy named Alex Rogers, known him for years. I just read a quote from him that I'd forgotten about, and I saved it at home, but he was quoted in October 2012 in the Oregonian as saying that the medical program was on its way out and that it would eventually be all recreational. And coincidentally, he runs 2 clinics.
That's interesting.
And so he's been running clinics for years, making money off the medical marijuana program, and yet he's the one and he's saying, it's going to go away. So instead of being out and saying, no, we got to keep it open, we just...
Again, that's so they can...
He's now doing the business thing, getting his pockets fattened by having these conferences. It's like I said, $195 for one day.
Yeah.
You know, but yet, so anyway, that's the kind of
and the funny thing in the Oregon Leaf, yeah, it shows Tommy Chong at a bunch of different conferences like this. So it's not just in Oregon; it's all across the country.
Oh yeah.
Charging you $250 to meet Tommy Chong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wrote on Facebook and I said, well, I'd sure like to meet Tommy Chong and speak to him again. I talked to him very, very briefly in San Francisco at the normal conference, but and that's the thing I always talk about Tommy Chong. That's not an act. When you see Tommy Chong, that's him. Yeah, he's very witty and funny. But anyway, yeah, the first time I talked to him, there was about 3 people trying to talk to him at once, and I knew he didn't hear me. So later I saw him by himself, and I was able to finally talk to him and got his attention, because I wanted to tell him the story about when they had that big bust. Remember they busted the glass shop that had his belongs in it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we had the manager on our program. I wish I remember what number it was. But anyway, it's on one of our programs, and he was telling us that the DEA agents who were confiscating the glass, they also had glass sex toys. And the DEA agent picked one up and said, well, how do you use this? And I told Tommy Chong about that. He said, oh, that's good. I'm going to use that in my act. So I don't know if he ever did or not. But anyway, yeah. So that's where we're at. We got starting to come to an end here. And anything you want to wrap it up with? We got about 40 seconds.
Yeah, I just want to mention that because of the passage of Measure HB 3400, there will be a limit to the number of plants at a grow site, and the change to definition of a veg plant.
That part was good.
Yeah.
Because it was just a foot tall, and that was a bad definition. So that was a good thing.
Yeah. Here are the tools growers need to make sure they stay legal. As an OMPP grower, information on what you could do if you don't agree with these changes. You'll be able to have an unlimited number of veg plants, and also the definition of a veg plant changes so they can be any size, just not showing any flowers.
That's right.
That's really interesting.
Yep. So we got to wrap up. We're coming into the show. So I appreciate you coming again, Blue Whale. I appreciate you helping us out. And always welcome. And you too, people, folks.
And call your legislators.
Tell
Tell them not to mess with Measure 91.